Hello and welcome to Coffee on Korriban. I am very unorganized. I don't even have my mic plugged in or anything. As you can see, this is the studio. So, if you guys didn't know, now you know. 2 paintings, ring lights, 2 purple lights, that's it. But tonight, we are going to have a special guest on. I don't think I've ever had him on my channel before, but we are going to talk to Deep Dive and do a deep dive into his edit of Obi-Wan Kenobi into one single 2.5-hour movie. And that begs the question, should this series have been released as a movie? Or was it better that it came out as the 6 episodes that it did? I don't know. I have some opinions after watching his edit, and while it's not a professional, polished edit that you would actually go into a movie theater and pay money to watch, it does give you an idea of what this could have been if it was edited into one single movie. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this as we get into the discussion. So everyone, welcome Deep Dive, and let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to Coffee on Korriban. It is great to see you guys. I see some regulars in the chat. We'll say hello real quick, and I will introduce our guest, Leia Rose. Here's a sip for you. She says, yes, that would have made a difference, referring to the Obi-Wan Kenobi series being released as a movie as opposed to the series. Charlie, here's a sip for you. Artist Carolyn Grace, here's a sip for you, watching from Maui. That sounds awful nice. Justin Scott, here's a sip for you. Israel Garcia, here's a sip for you. And he says it definitely would have included things like cohesive stunt coordination, which would have nixed stuff like the pointless parkour and cartoonish child chase scenes. So that would have been nice. We also got Akio Beats. Official, here's a good sip for you. If any of you guys hear some of the lo-fi beats that I use in my channel, that's the guy. Check him out if you want some cool music, or if you're a rapper and you need some backing tracks. But everyone, give a warm welcome to Deep Dive. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing well. Congrats on your 1-year anniversary on YouTube. That's exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been slow the last month. Got a lot of personal stuff going on, but we did pass 1 year. It's weird. Like, actually having a community, because you can post videos and people watch and stuff, but when you see regulars in the chat and on Discord, and you see familiar faces pop up, and then you start considering these people friends, it's really cool. Just all that's happened in a year. It's really nice. But for anyone that doesn't know, what do you do on your channel? What do you specialize in? What's your point of what you do?
Yeah, so I generally make like Star Wars analysis video essays. So sometimes I do fun, silly ones, but also diving into like topics of like the philosophy of Star Wars, or analyzing how they construct shows and movies, things like that.
That's awesome. And I was debating on whether or not to name my channel when I was choosing Coffee on Korriban. I was debating the name Star Wars philosophy, because I like to get into the deep reasons as to why we like Star Wars, as opposed to specific character deep dives or planet deep dives. I like to get into like the reasons why we enjoy that stuff. But I guess that's, as your name suggests, deep dive. What is your favorite thing to dive deep into in the Star Wars universe?
I think probably just in general, it's the story. Like when I made my Kenobi edit, it's not like the best edited fan edit there is, but
sure,
my main goal was to change the whole story in a way that worked for me. So yeah, just in general, like keeping the heart there,
Right. So what do you think was the biggest drawback to the way it was released in 6 episodes? What were you the most eager to edit out with what you changed?
I think probably the main thing that was the drawback of having it as a show, in my opinion, is just because it's episodic, and Obi-Wan and Leia have to make it through each episode, obviously. Basically, that means every episode ends with Darth Vader or Reva just kind of failing suddenly or letting them go. So the whole episode is all intense, and then at the end, oh, suddenly the good guys escape because we know they have to. So it just
Sure.
takes a lot of the tension out that you get back when you put it together as a movie.
And that's something I was noticing while I was watching your edit, was like, it would normally end the episode here and kind of kill the momentum. But as a movie, it carried that through, and especially emotionally. I think the thing that really stuck out to me the most was the emotions of this entire journey and watching it in one sitting, culminating in the final fight scene with Darth Vader and Obi-Wan. And then also the emotions of him explaining to Leia, like, this, you are a combination of your mother and father. That was already an emotional scene, but I think after seeing their journey together through this movie, it really hit hard, the emotional impact of that. And I feel like the episodic release hindered that.
Yeah,
it didn't
definitely.
allow that to compound on itself, especially with a week in between. Maybe if people were able to binge the series, if it all released at once. But I think the weeks in between of waiting, dwelling on the episode, watching other people's reactions, and digging into each episode and picking it apart, watching it 5 times in a row, kind of killed that momentum. What characters did you remove from this? Because I noticed a few of them that were missing.
Right. Yeah, let's see. I removed the Jedi Nari from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really like his introduction. With him being so obvious about using the Force, it was too goofy for me. So
Right.
I tried my best to basically remove him completely and focus it on Obi-Wan. I also cut out a lot of the scenes of the random background rebel characters.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Wade. Poor Wade didn't make the final edit. The legend that he is.
He died in vain.
He tried his best.
Yeah. Well, I feel like there was a lot of stuff that, having watched your edit, that because it was a show, I don't want to say they were specifically filler, but there was a lot of room that needed to be filled. And again, going back to the momentum that it had, it kind of toned everything down. R.I.P. Wade.
Well, even, honestly, if they made it into a movie, they could have had Wade throughout the whole movie as kind of an Andor character and then had some big dramatic death scene. But instead, we just get, he's introduced at the beginning of this episode. By the time you know his name, he already exploded. So it's not as impactful.
Well, there just isn't time to build up characters in a show, which is weird because you get 2.5 movies worth of footage in those 6 episodes.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But there's not enough time to build characters. It's a weird predicament now that I'm thinking about it that way.
It's like it sounds like if there's a whole show, you would think you have way more time, but actually at the beginning of every episode, you have to set it up, you have to run the story, and then you have to close it, which is something you don't have to do in a movie. So even though each episode's 40 minutes, you only get like maybe 10-20 minutes of character development per episode.
Sure. And if you took your movie edit and you just divided into 6 equal parts, they wouldn't have any conclusions. It would feel like a weird start and a weird stop. So you have to tailor the story to make it into a show. And I think we could have got a totally different story, probably completely different from even the one that you created it into, if they had started from the understanding of making it into a movie. And another thing I've been wondering is, what if they did start with that mindset of, we're making this into a movie, and then executives said, nope, we need a show, make it 6 episodes, and then they had to tailor the story into that, and things maybe didn't flow as well as it could have.
I've heard a lot of rumors of that they originally scripted out a movie, including more of Luke in it as well. And then, the higher ups at Disney or wherever said, no, this is Disney Plus. We need a show. Throw on some filler, throw on some endings, like make it week by week.
Right. And I love the last 15-20 minutes of your edit, because it has the fight scene. There's the whole Obi-Wan being buried under the rocks that you took out.
I did,
which was nice. It was just a finale, a climactic fight scene between the two of them, and it carried the intensity all the way through.
One thing that
really nice.
One thing that stood out to me about that part is I didn't realize until after I edited, like, how much cutting away to Riva and Tatooine just like ripped all the momentum away from the Obi-Wan versus Vader fight. Like when you just see Obi-Wan versus Vader duking it out at the end for like a solid 10 minutes or whatever it is without cutting away, it makes the conversation at the end like 3 times more impactful.
Right. Yep. Totally agree. And that already is an amazing scene. The emotion at the end of the fight scene. We've dug into it before on live streams here, but the emotional impact of their conversation, their final conversation before parting, even down to the very last words where Obi-Wan says goodbye, Darth. And he calls him that little sting of like, look, this is all you are, is just a tool of the dark side. You're one in a line of many. Like, you threw it all away for that. Now you're only Darth. That's all you have to your name. That, just the momentum going into that, instead of, like you said, cutting away to Riva on Tatooine. What changes specifically to Riva's character did you make in this? Because that was definitely my least favorite part of the show, and I feel like a lot of other people feel the same.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people really weren't liking Riva's character as the show was coming out. And honestly, even though I wasn't a big fan of the show itself, I really liked Riva's character, but I didn't like what they did with her. So my main goal, I don't know if I achieved it, but my main goal with my edit was trying to give her like more of a cohesive story right from the beginning as almost a main character. And then also I wanted to make her like a scarier villain, because I feel in the original show, it's like she kind of has that Kylo Ren problem where she's just going around yelling at everyone. So I tried to cut down on that and just make her more, the silent, intimidating type that's actually scary, like Vader.
Right. And she just throws the knife at the bartender in the very beginning.
Yeah, that's
it's just something you edited
to this. Yeah, that was something that that's my favorite and least favorite part of the edit.
Yeah.
Because that was I felt my biggest, most creative change that added a lot of drama. But at the same time,
she just got impatient and threw a knife into his face.
Yeah, I made Riva really scary at the beginning of mine. I'm not sure if I went overboard, but I tried.
Well, also you took out her stabbing the Grand Inquisitor, which I didn't really care for in the beginning. I was okay with it. But you made it to where they had the confrontation. Obi-Wan and Leia escape on the transport, and then she tracks down Obi-Wan without using the tracker in Lola, if I remember correctly, because you took that out. And the Grand Inquisitor just kind of fades away. And that makes Riva, in your edit, just get promoted. Like, she believes she did this great thing, and now she's promoted when the entire time she was just being used. And that, I felt when the Grand Inquisitor comes back, hello, third sister. I feel like that was more impactful, because it was not even that he was cast to the side. It was just he took a step back and they both used her. So I thought that made a lot more sense in that scene. Which was pretty cool.
The Grand Inquisitor is one of my favorite characters from Rebels. So I really didn't like, even if it's part of a plan or whatever they were trying to go for, I just didn't like Riva just stabbing him suddenly and him being out of the picture for so long. I thought it would be better to, it looks like Riva is the best, the strongest, but then at the end he shows actually he's always one step ahead of her, even though it might not be obvious. Right.
And there was a little subtle change you made in the fight scene between Riva and Vader, to where it was just more direct action, just start to finish, and he never lost control of the fight at all.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like, look, I'm the Sith Lord. Who are you?
Right. And my goal was I wanted to make Riva twice as scary, and then I wanted to make Vader twice as scary as Riva.
Exactly.
So I kind of build them up.
Right. And that also pays off in how dominating Obi-Wan is in the final fight towards the end of it, because we already see how powerful Vader is against Riva. As far as outside help with this edit, did you use anything from anyone else? Ask for any help? Did anyone else make any scenes for you in this edit?
Yeah, I didn't get too much direct help, but I do in my description I shout out a few channels. There's I got the de-aged Anakin scene
Mm-hmm.
from someone on YouTube. I don't know them, but I found it and it was really good. Darth Porg. And then also there's someone on YouTube named Spickle who made a good edit of the Leia chase scene, basically
Mm.
cutting it out because it was
Cutting
too
out the
slapstick.
branch.
Yeah.
The
and then
branch.
and then also they made a really good edit of like Darth Vader's siege on the rebels at the end that made it a lot more
Mm.
dramatic. So I borrowed those and credited them in the comments. And then
That's
also
awesome.
I generally got help and advice from Matt Cave throughout.
Yeah, Matt Cave is great at his edits. I don't know if you've ever seen his sequel trilogy re-edits, but specifically the Last Jedi edit that he did was really good. Same, there's only so much you can do as far as like audio transitions when the music is
Yeah.
different in two scenes and you splice them together, or in like screen wipes. There's only so much you can do in all those situations. But it's a fan edit. We're not
Right.
charging money for this. We're not getting paid for this.
Yeah, I figure, when people watch my edit, they're going to notice 100 cuts, but they're not going to
Right.
notice that there are actually 1,000 cuts that were
Exactly.
made. So
Exactly. And I told Matt Cave the same thing when we watched the Matt Cave edit of The Last Jedi. Is like, look, it's obvious that it's spliced. There's no hiding that, but there's a certain charm to it because something that you didn't care for was taken out. And you can see the change in the story, whether it's subtle or something major, like an actual fight scene now being turned into a premonition, like a dream sequence. So whether the changes are small or large, you get a sense of like, okay, this is different. I like this better. And there's a certain charm to the jankiness of those transitions that you totally forget by the end of the show or movie, I guess it would be.
yeah, one of my favorite things watching shows, or just I guess prequels in general, and then also fan edits, is that moment where you're watching it and then you generally know what's going on and what's going to happen, and then you have that moment where you realize like, oh, they're going here with this. Like that's the moment for me at the beginning of Kenobi. You see Coruscant and then Order 66 starts and you're just like, they're going here. I see what they're doing.
Yeah, and I love Coruscant. So as you can tell by the background, I'm just
Yep, Coruscant.
I don't know. Great. I don't know if I would want to live in Coruscant because I'm not really a city person. But I would love to visit it.
Yep.
Like seriously, I think if I had to choose anywhere to live, it would probably would be Dantooine, from KOTOR. Just so peaceful there. Where would you live, and where would you like to vacation in Star Wars?
Realistically, for living, I'd probably have to pick like Naboo or Alderaan, just because they're so idyllic just by their nature. But for visiting, that's hard. There are so many cool planets. Honestly, Mustafar might be cool just to see, just to see like all the lava planet everywhere. That's crazy. Coruscant would probably be the most fun though.
Yeah, I would imagine there's so much to do, but just the cityscape and like seeing a sunrise come up, it's just so cool. And we see that in the movies. That's why I love the prequels so much, is because you get the scale of this city planet, and it feels real. As old as the CGI technology was in 1998-9 when they were making Phantom Menace, like it feels so good. Just the whole buildings. And that's also why I'm so excited for Andor, is because the shots of Coruscant or Mantell, so whatever planet they're showing, it's that same style of CGI that we got in the prequels. And as far as like the fight scenes and the cinematography, it feels straight out of Rogue One, which makes sense because it's the same people.
Right.
How are you feeling going into Andor?
I am cautiously very optimistic, and Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars movie, basically, and Andor is one
even
of my
over the original
characters.
6.
Even, yeah, Revenge of the Sith is pretty close, but it's like it's maybe a toss up between Rogue One and Revenge of the Sith.
I'll respect that. I'll respect that.
Yeah, I'm hoping they do Andor justice though, because the Rogue One movie's great, and all the tie-in books are really good too.
Yeah, I think they will. I haven't checked out any of the side literature for pretty much anything Disney Star Wars, aside from just what you hear from other people on High Republic or, you know, the Vader comics or whatever.
Yeah.
But as far as Andor, I am hyped. I've been telling people for a while. People are sleeping on Andor. Like, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, the trailers really blew me away for Andor, so I have high hopes for it.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited for that. Everyone watching right now, go ahead and put in the chat. Do you think that Obi-Wan Kenobi should have been released as a movie? Just put yes or no. I want to hear from you guys. And while you're doing that, we are going to take a quick break and talk about the news from the stars.
From the farthest corners of the galaxy and every channel on the holonet, we bring you news from the stars.
So cheesy.
That's such a great intro. I love it so much. So holiday special vibes.
Yeah. So news from the stars is a new segment that I wanted to bring to the show. Basically talking about Star Wars news. Just anything Star Wars related about upcoming shows. Because obviously the purpose of this live stream is to talk about your movie edit and movie edits in general in relation to Kenobi. But I wanted to talk about Christopher Lloyd and how he's going to be in a future Star Wars show. And there was an article I read. I don't remember where. I just screenshotted it. But they were asking him at a convention who he was going to be playing. And he said, we've all been sworn to secrecy, at which the audience laughed in response before adding, so I don't know. Well, at least he has confirmed that he will definitely be appearing in The Mandalorian Season 3, even if we don't know who or what he will be playing. So great help that article was.
It's
like, seriously.
Breaking news.
So if I had to guess, I think he's playing Joruus C'baoth. Whether it's C'baoth or C'baoth or C'baoth, it doesn't really matter.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
The fake Jedi that is really good at battle meditation that Thrawn uses in Heir to the Empire. That would be my guess, because we know they're bringing Thrawn in, whether in Mandalorian Season 3 or Ahsoka or whatever future show. We know they're getting Thrawn. And so Joruus C'baoth would make sense. He's what, 83, I think, Christopher Lloyd?
He's getting up there.
Yeah. So I think that would make sense. Is he spry enough to bring the enthusiasm to that role? Or I don't know. I haven't seen him in anything except Back to the Future. So
if he brings Back to the Future energy, then he'll definitely have enough of it.
Yeah, I think he can. I don't know much about him, but that article definitely didn't help. Would boil it down. It was an entire article. I read through the entire thing, and this is all I got out of it. Was we've been sworn to secrecy, so I don't know.
Wow,
that doesn't help at all.
But you clicked on the article, so they did their job.
Yes, and a bunch of ads popped up, so they got their money. That's all they're happy about. So, whether he's playing Joruus C'baoth or maybe just a cameo in the background, I don't know, but that's the news from the stars.
From the farthest corners of the galaxy and every channel on the holonet, we bring you news from the stars.
That's so
they threw that together in like 5 minutes before we went live. Just slapped it together.
It's great. It needs to be recurring.
Yes, definitely. That's my goal with the show. With my channel and these streams, is to make it more like an actual production, like a show with returning guests and segments, and
like
as opposed to just show. As opposed to just like a podcast where people just talk, which is fun, but I want a little bit more production value with my stuff. But anyway, what was the biggest challenge in regards to your edit?
The biggest challenge, let's see, editing wise, the biggest challenge was probably the scenes of Obi-Wan and Leia just walking around and talking on I forgot the planet, Daiyu, when she's captured. Just there's so many different sets, and they're walking around and talking the whole time. And there are some parts of things they were saying that just jokes that didn't land or things that didn't gel with me that I wanted to cut, but then it makes them teleport. And so that was a struggle trying to get that as smooth as I could. I wonder, let's see, story-wise, Story-wise, the hardest thing was, a big change that was kind of tricky to make was I cut out the entire subplot of Obi-Wan losing the Force and then slowly getting it back over time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of tricky to work around that, and like, how do I make him more like the Obi-Wan in the prequels from the get-go, but also keep, some arc of him learning to kind of get over Anakin, basically.
Sure. And I think that came across in his character. He was dejected and sad and, not in the Jedi state of mind, but he wasn't weak. He wasn't powerless in this edit, which is not something that I minded in the original episodes when they came out. And even the scene of him trying to use the Force on that small object, whatever it was, I didn't mind that. I liked seeing, not that he's cut himself off completely from the Force, but he hasn't exercised the muscle of the Force in years. Like, he hasn't practiced, he hasn't thought about it. He's probably been trying to hide his Force signature so as not to be discovered. And so I didn't mind that at all. But it does feel a lot more like the Obi-Wan we get in Revenge of the Sith carried through. It doesn't feel like a totally different character as it does in the episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So, any other challenges that you faced? Any scenes that here's a better question. Is there anything that you had to cut that you didn't want to cut?
Oh, that's a good one. What? I feel there definitely were scenes. I'm trying to think what some of them were.
Is there anything you were debating on whether to cut or not, and you ended up cutting it?
Well, actually, this is kind of a weird one, but for most of the edit, I actually had planned to cut out Leia's droid Lola.
Completely,
because I was like, almost completely, like, when the Empire smashes the droid, I was gonna leave it smashed for the rest of the movie, basically. Which in retrospect, I think that would have been unnecessarily dark and depressing, and I'm glad I left it in. But yeah, I was thinking, like, Leia doesn't have a droid as an adult, so what happened to it in the middle? Better get rid of it in this edit. But then I kept the droid out of the edit the entire time I was making it. And then in the very final scene, when she meets up with Obi-Wan again on Alderaan,
you're like,
the droid is there and it's flying around, and I was like, I cannot cut the most heartwarming scene of the whole show. And I went back through and I added the droid back into every single scene.
It's just another L0 droid. They have them flying everywhere,
Yeah, it works. You can get rid of it and whatever your headcanon is for in between the movies.
I love it. So there's one thing that I noticed you cut that I wished that you had left in. And that would be the line that Obi-Wan says, whether he dies or I do. I believe you cut that out.
I did.
Okay, so
I think I did.
I loved that line. I really did in the original. I'll explain why. Because Obi-Wan is purely defensive. That is his person as a Jedi. It's his fighting style. He's defensive. He doesn't take life. He doesn't really go on the attack, as maybe tactically, but he's not as brash as Anakin is in that regard. But in that scene, when he says either whether he dies or I do, he's admitting to himself, as Matt Cave said a couple weeks ago, quite a while ago. He's saying, like, I am going to have to kill him, which is what he couldn't do on Mustafar. He couldn't kill Anakin there. He chopped him up and assumed that he died, but he couldn't finish him off. But in that scene, he's saying whether he dies or I do, he's saying, I have to go kill my Padawan. And I wish that was left in for me personally. Just because it gives you an idea of what he's feeling in that moment. And he's having to change who he is in order to stop this threat. So I'm very curious to hear why that line was cut. Not that I'm like mad at you or anything.
Yeah, I think if I remember, I went back and forth on if I was going to keep that in or not. Mm-hmm. And the reason the reason I was debating it is because I saw there's a lot of. I personally didn't have that much of an issue with it, but
Mhm.
I saw a lot of talk online about how, Obi-Wan is like, this is his second try. He saw what happened the first time that he left Anakin alive. And then this is his second time, and he says this time it's going to be the final one. And then he goes there, and then the same thing happens, and then he leaves Anakin alive again, and then Anakin goes and does a bunch of more bad things. And
Right.
a lot of people were saying about how they made them feel like basically everything between the Kenobi show up through Return of the Jedi is like almost Obi-Wan's fault, or Obi-Wan like could have stopped it, openly says he knows he should stop it, but then chooses not to a second time, even though he knows what happens.
Sure.
So that one, like, I can see it going either way. That one I debated for a long time, and it sounds like I left it out if you noticed it. So I guess that's what I ended up on.
Yeah, well, now that you explain it, it makes perfect sense, because he says whether he dies or I do, and then he doesn't kill him at the end. So that makes sense. I would, I guess, respond to that by saying that, there was nothing left to kill at that point. Anakin was gone, and he just felt sorry for him, or he had no attachment to him as his Padawan, as his friend, so there wasn't a need to kill him at that point. But I don't know. We're talking tiny details.
Yeah, that's
like
Revenge of the Sith is similar, and then for Obi-Wan, like definitely in this one, I see him like thinking back on it. I see him as being like very shocked, and just he's like basically overwhelmed and breaking down, and like Obi-Wan is crying again at the end of this. So you can see it's like Obi-Wan tries to kill Anakin, he can't bring himself to do it. He tries a second time, still can't bring himself to do it. He tells Luke to kill Anakin, and then Luke can't bring himself to do it, but also Luke saves him in another way. So it's kind of a good arc in that way, and I can totally see why it would be good to leave it in. Maybe a future revision.
Sure. Plug House, here's a sip for you. I don't believe I've seen you around here before. So if you are new, then welcome. I hope you enjoy your time here on Korriban. He says we need a Vader series. Anakin, the entire series is your series.
I love that. Yeah, I would love a Vader series, though. Honestly,
it would be great. Just a mini series. Doesn't even have to be canon technically. That would be great. Samuel Miller says, I don't understand why Obi-Wan left Vader alive. And also, I don't believe I've seen you around here before. So here's a sip for you if you're new. Hope you stick around. That would be much appreciated. Don't understand why Obi-Wan left Vader alive. So I do believe the strike, the final blow to Vader, the one that slashed open his helmet, I believe that was a killing blow. And if not for his helmet, would have been a killing blow. So in that moment, he was trying to kill Anakin, who he still believed at that point was Anakin. And then he saw how nothing, there was no Anakin after that. There was a broken machine. He's more machine than man now. And I don't think it was just pure sympathy, but it was just like, there's nothing left for me to do that you haven't already done to yourself. And so there wasn't a need for him to kill him at that point. And you can argue, of course, that, he needed to kill him to put a stop to the threat of Vader going and killing everyone and hunting down the rest of the Jedi. Like, sure, you can make that argument, but I don't think personally for Obi-Wan, there was a need for him to kill Anakin because there was nothing left to kill. It was so corrupted that there was no sense in even paying attention to it.
Yeah, that's a good point I hadn't considered too. Like when Obi-Wan jumps off a rock and swings directly for Vader's head and hits him in the head, like it just happens to be kind of a glancing blow, but in that moment, he definitely doesn't know that. So he's going in for the kill, and then when he almost gets it and then he sees his friend, he reconsiders again.
Sure. And then Samuel says, do you think Obi-Wan could have turned Anakin back? No, I don't believe so. And the reason I think that is because Obi-Wan is who Anakin blamed most for his turning. Even back to episode 2 when he says he's holding me back. He always believed that Obi-Wan was holding him back, not in terms of skill, but in terms of his relationship with Padme, everything that he wanted, wanting to go back and save his mom. Like, he blamed Obi-Wan for that. And so I think he had way too much resentment for Obi-Wan, that he never would be open to the possibility of even listening to Obi-Wan. He was just blind hatred, trying to hunt down all the people that did him wrong for his entire life as Vader. So I don't think he would have ever even considered listening to Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I agree. I think even before Anakin like completely falls, like if it's Mace Windu versus Palpatine, and then Palpatine says, "Save me, I'll save Padme," I think Anakin would have Mace Windu'd Obi-Wan the same way he hit Mace Windu, or at least there's a good chance of it.
Yep, definitely. And then with Luke, the reason Luke was able to bring him back was obviously because he was his son. But I think with it being his son, it gave Vader a glimpse of what his life could have been like if he hadn't turned to the dark side. It's like, look, this is my child. This is what I threw away. I couldn't save my wife, but I have my son. I have to save my son. It's the second chance that I never got in the previous 20 years. And so I think that was the reason that, as George Lucas himself said, only Luke could have brought him back.
That's
the
also
power of family and all that, but I think it was just because Vader finally got to see what his life would have been like.
Yeah, I mean, it's also a change in Vader too. Like when he's, at his peak Jedi power and just trying to get more power and control of everything and super freaking out, like in Revenge of the Sith or even Rogue One, the Kenobi series. Like at that point, I don't even think Luke would have been able to talk him out of it. I think it's really important, like just Vader getting so worn down and so sick of the Emperor, and then Luke shows up and it's like Vader thinks he has no chance left, and then Luke shows him, okay, wait, you actually have one more chance out, and like gives Vader the one last chance.
And that ties directly into my favorite quote in Star Wars of all time. My favorite line in any movie, any show, anything, is in Return of the Jedi, when Vader says to Luke, "It is too late for me, son." That line right there, that little pause, shows you that there is a chance. Even though he's saying with his words, "It is too late for me, son," you can tell there's a little bit of Anakin trying to push through. And I think that ties in with, he sees his son, he sees what could have been. And I just love that line. It's the name of your true self you've only forgotten. I know the Emperor hasn't driven it from you fully. Like, Lucas is telling the truth right there. Anakin was
Vader
never completely dead. Vader knows it, and that's why he's telling himself, "It is too late for me, son." But we know as the audience that it's not true. It's the very first time we've seen a hint of light side in Vader. At that point.
Well, even you can see he switches, just what he talks about switches from, you need to join the dark side because the dark side's better. It switches from that to, okay, yeah, actually the dark side's worse. I'm miserable, but I don't know how to get out.
But it's too late for me. Exactly. Yep. Absolutely. Plughouse says, who wins, Anakin and Maul versus Windu and Luke?
Ooh.
Okay, so this is going to be determined by which version of which character we're talking about.
That's always the question.
so extended universe Luke would win on his own against the three of them. But we're not talking about that. We're talking, I would assume, Revenge of the Jedi Luke. I think they should have kept that name. That's a pretty cool name. But Return of the Jedi Luke and Revenge of the Sith Windu.
And then Revenge of the Sith Anakin, Phantom Menace Maul, Clone Wars Maul. I think I'd have to give it to Anakin and Maul on this one.
I would agree. I would completely agree, because Anakin is most powerful pretty much we've ever seen anyone. Aside from maybe Yoda.
Well, but the other thing too is Luke. Yeah, Luke doesn't have the traditional Force and lightsaber power as much as those
Right.
prequel Jedi. Luke is great because he's a great person, not necessarily because he's like a powerhouse like Mace Windu or
Right.
Maul.
Yeah, Luke never had the formal training. I mean, he was what, 5 years into his training at that point. He had the natural connection to the Force and the power that way, but it was not refined, which we know in Legends. I would assume it did get refined.
Yeah.
But Windu is super powerful, but I don't know. Let's pair up Anakin and Windu. That would be a really good fight. And then Maul and Luke. Maul versus Luke. I got to give it to Maul.
I would give it to Maul. Luke's just
Maul,
honest. He's just not fast enough. Just
he's
straight up.
not fast enough. He doesn't have the defense, and Maul is too relentless, too aggressive. Anakin and Windu. Who do you got between them? The proper
honestly,
answer is Anakin.
I think, yeah. I mean, I feel like the answer should be Anakin, but I kind of feel like Windu would beat him in most cases. Like, the only reason Anakin is able to beat Windu when he does is because he's the most distracted he could possibly be at that time.
Sure. I don't know. You got to give it to Anakin because he's so powerful, but at the same time, like swordsmanship, that's Windu.
Even just control. I feel Mace Windu would just kind of taunt him like Dooku and then take him out somehow.
Anakin would get frustrated. Whether or not he's tapping into the dark side, he would get frustrated. Windu would just
tell him to take a seat and he would just surrender.
Take a seat, young Skywalker. Liar!
That'd be great.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I want to run something by you real quick that I was wanting to do. So I don't edit as much as I would like because I do all my editing on my phone. Anything I've ever edited has been on my phone, which is why I like live streams better. but any editing is done on my phone, so I'm very limited as to what I can edit. But I want to take the Lord of the Rings Council of Elrond and all of the Jedi Council scenes and smash them together and just edit it into one long council. Like, what about the droid attack on the Wookiees? But like everyone keeps interrupting him and he can never finish his sentence.
There is I forget the name right now. There is a small YouTuber, I think maybe a couple hundred subscribers right now that I've been following, who makes exactly videos like that.
That's awesome.
I'll try to find it if I can. Yeah, it's great.
And another one is Obi-Wan at the end of the fight scene in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Says, "I'm sorry, Anakin, for all of it." And in The Dark Knight, Commissioner Gordon says, "I'm sorry for everything." And it's like identical. I just want them yelling that back and forth to each other.
Yeah, we just need to make a meme compilation video sometime. Just get all the Star Wars YouTubers together with all our ideas.
Yep.
Make a 30-minute video.
Definitely. Oh, that's a really good idea. Like everyone has a month to make like a meme edit.
Everyone
like
make your best memes. We'll
or
stitch them together.
Yeah, just slap it all together. Yeah. That'd be great. I'm down. I'll start planning for that. All right. Israel says Kenobi didn't kill Vader because he is a true Jedi to the end. It is not the Jedi way to kill a defenseless person, even if that person is Darth Vader. Good point. Good point. Maul kills Luke, and Windu kills Anakin, and then Windu kills Maul. Would be a tough battle. That's a good idea. A good thought on that. I don't know. It's a very interesting question because we always get the person against person matchups that everyone talks about. That's like classic Star Wars nerd stuff to talk about. But when you add the teams into it, and that's also another question: are they fighting as a team or are they just one-on-one? Yeah. Interesting. Anthony, YouTube fan, says, sorry, man, for being late. As a version of the extremely mixed bag Obi-Wan Kenobi miniseries should have been a movie with a very different plot execution. Yeah. And there's only so much you could have done in your edit to make it into a movie. And there are planets they would not have gone to, kidnappings that wouldn't have happened the way that they did if it were planned out to be a movie from the beginning. The whole point, I guess, is just to get an idea of what it could have been like as a movie. And I think it did that really well. Would episode 6 Luke win episode 1 Qui-Gon Jinn?
That's a hard one, actually. That's a really good one.
That's
such a toss-up.
That's a really close battle, because you got the patient master and the untrained, but yeah.
It would be a very slow, methodical fight, and they would end up being friends.
I don't think either one of them is aggressive enough to end the fight.
They would.
It would just be really long
with a draw, and they would talk it out.
They would negotiate. Yeah, what an interesting question. I like these versus questions.
Yeah, we need to have a whole show that's just discussing these verses.
Just have a whole lineup and just go through them.
We can have a tournament.
Yeah, like a universe fighting championship. All right. Any other? While we're talking about that, anyone watching have any other matchups as crazy as they might be? Like, think of 2 completely opposite characters. They don't even have to be force sensitive to go up against each other.
Jar Jar Binks versus Gonk Droid. It's a toss-up. It's a real
Gonk
toss-up.
Gonk Droid. I give it to the Gonk Droid. That's actually going to be my next painting. Same style as this, with just the black, silver, and white, but a Gonk Droid.
That's amazing.
Because who paints a Gonk Droid? Me. I think Luke would win because Jin would be too tired to fight for a long time. Then again, Luke did show some aggression at the end of Revenge of the Jedi.
He did. If Luke got mad, I think Qui-Gon would be in some serious trouble.
Yeah, but he could also just sit back and block. I don't know. Yeah. It would be a very long battle and not a very interesting battle.
It would be like fencing.
Because you got one guy who would probably exclusively rely on form, and then the other guy who has no form but doesn't have the skill to make the attacks.
Just Luke hitting him with a baseball bat and him casually blocking everything but never attacking back.
Exactly. That's exactly how it would play out. I got that visual in my head. That's so funny. What is your favorite? I was going to post this on my community tab the other day. What is your favorite background droid?
Oh, my favorite background droid. I guess it depends on how far in the background. Probably K2SO doesn't count. He's a
major
droid.
Character.
What's a good? Honestly, I've always loved. For no particular reason, I've always loved the pit droids. Just ever since I'm a little kid, I saw the Phantom Menace. How did I know you were going to say that? They're just fantastic. They don't do anything. They're just there to be goofy, but they're just hilarious every time.
Right. I think it would be the probe droids for me. The design of the probe droids are so cool. The Viper probe droids. I have the Lego set that I built a while ago of the probe droid. It's a really good Lego set. I just think they're so cool. If not the probe droids, then Gonk droids.
I found that Star Wars YouTube channel that I mentioned. I found their name. They're currently at 1.3 subs, but it's called The Storming Brain, and they make like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings mashup edits, and they're just hilarious and fantastic.
The Storming what?
The Storming Brain. Like BRAIN.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah. They're really great. Highly recommend.
I might have Republic of the Rings.
Yeah, they have an ongoing series that's about, Star Wars mixed with Lord of the Rings, and yeah, it's fun.
That's awesome. I'll check them out. I think I might have seen some videos of theirs a while ago. All right. Tom Haven, I love the profile picture. Here's a sip for you. I don't think I've seen you around here before, so if this is your first time, then welcome. Right now, we're just kind of hanging out, talking about verses. He said, here's one. Dooku and Obi-Wan and Grievous versus Palpatine and Ventress and Ahsoka.
It's a big teams. Dooku and...
any team that Palpatine's on.
Yeah, Palpatine.
I got to give it to him
Honestly, Palpatine could probably take Dooku, Obi-Wan, and Grievous on his
by himself.
own.
Yep. But
So,
especially
yeah,
with
Ventress
and
Ahsoka,
Ahsoka giving
yeah,
running interference,
definitely.
I got to give it to Palpatine.
Grievous
Let's see
would lose
how would that
in
play
like 2
out.
seconds.
Grievous would, yeah, he would run away.
Yeah, for real.
Let's see. Ventress would be pretty formidable. I think Ventress and Obi-Wan would be a good fight. How many times did they fight in the Clone Wars?
A lot, actually.
Yeah, they're
like,
pretty
at least
close,
once
right?
a season. Yeah.
And then Ahsoka and Dooku, I would give that to Dooku.
I think if you think Ahsoka and Grievous are almost a tie, Obi-Wan Ventress kind of a tie, and then Palpatine definitely beats Dooku. From there, Palpatine just goes and wipes everyone out.
Palpatine takes out Obi-Wan, and then Palpatine.
At that point, Grievous would just switch sides or run away.
Yeah, he would turn into a spider and just run away. So, Dooku could hold off Palpatine for a long time. That is true. The Force powers Palpatine takes it. Palpatine is a very good swordsman. I might give the edge as far as pure swordsmanship to Dooku. I know Dooku is pretty much a perfectionist as far as his swordsmanship is concerned. That's another good matchup. Here's another one. Pelimato versus Rose.
I have to look up who Pelimato is.
The mechanic lady from Mandalorian.
Oh, Mandalorian.
With the curly hair.
Yeah.
One of my least favorite characters in all of Star Wars.
Really? Why?
She's just annoying. Well, it's no skin up my dip swap.
I'd maybe give it to her just because the Mandalorian mechanic seems a bit more rugged than Rose. But
and we got to keep in mind, Rose doesn't defeat the enemy by killing what they hate. They win the war by saving what she loves.
Rose does have that thing that electrocutes people, though. She could just tase her.
Nah, Pelimato has the pit droids and all the other droids and the Jawa that she dated once would go and fight for her.
Oh boy, that would coming soon to Disney Plus.
Gosh, I wish I was good at like animation and stuff. I would make that fight happen.
Have you ever played the old Star Wars board game called Epic Duels? It came out with Attack of the Clones.
No, I don't think so.
It's a fantastic old board game that came out with Attack of the Clones, and it's basically this. They just have all the different main characters, and you get decks, run around a board, and just have duels.
I'll have to check it out.
It's one of the best
Star Wars
fun games ever.
Epic Duels was it called?
Yep.
I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Dooku Palpatine for a long time. Was Palpatine scared of Dooku? Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard a reference of Palpatine being scared of Dooku, actually, now that I think of it.
I don't know. Interesting. Well, we are coming to the end of the 1 hour show. I gotta get to bed to get to work tomorrow. But any closing thoughts as far as your edit? How long did it take you, by the way?
It was maybe a couple of weeks of intense editing. Maybe like 3 weeks of pretty intense editing. Yeah, I didn't make any videos that month. I just worked on the edit basically the entire month. So,
well, yeah, I think it paid off. I think it paid off, and as I was said earlier, it's not a polished edit that you would go to a movie theater and watch, but it gives you an idea of what this could have been if a few tweaks had been made, if a few plot lines had been changed. It gives you an idea of what we could have got. And I think it did really well in that regard. So if anyone watching would like to watch the deep dive edit of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series into a movie, let me find your channel real quick. I'll put that in the description, and everyone go subscribe to Deep Dive. And say something while I'm finding this.
All right, yeah. So my main goal for the edit was basically just there are so many fantastic things in the Kenobi show that I absolutely loved, in so many things that made me cringe so hard or just totally took me out of the show. So my main goal for the edit was just to take all the good parts that I loved and put them into a format where I could enjoy them, basically. And so it's not professionally edited or anything, but I tried to make a story that I could enjoy more and just watch with the rest of the Star Wars movies. So hopefully you watch it and hopefully you like it too.
Sure. Well, I definitely liked it, and I hope everyone else does. You can go over to his channel that I just put in there. Make sure you subscribe, and then click on the video called, what is it? Like, I fixed
Something.
Kenobi.
It will be obvious. It's
Yeah. And then in the description of that, you can find the edit in Google Drive, Dropbox, and whatever the other one was.
Mega. Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but yeah, there.
It's another
you can
file
find it there.
sharing site.
Okay. Awesome. Well, if anyone's interested, you know where to find it. Please subscribe. Lemon Meerkat. Good to see you. There's a sip for you.
General Kenobi.
Very nice. You saved it. But that's going to do it for the show tonight. Everyone, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate you guys getting here. And especially if you've been here from the beginning, I really appreciate your time. May the stash be with you. And I will see you wherever I happen to see you in the galaxy.